Blending humor with lessons, from thought-provoking conversations to candid opinions, everything you need to know is here at your fingertip.
Catch us live on YouTube or any of your favorite podcast platforms by simply searching The Idea Game Changer and there you find us anytime, any day. The Idea Game Changer, an initiative of the Innovation Television, Idea TV.
Hello and welcome to the Idea Game Changer podcast. This is the podcast, an initiative of Idea TV, where we bring science, technology, innovation, entrepreneurship in a fun, engaging way to your views. And of course, we have various segments of this podcast. We have the In My Opinion segment, where we talk about expert opinions on policies, on policies, on rules and regulations. We have Science Chatterbox, we have Share Your Story, and we have the Young Einstein. On this episode today, we are having the In My Opinion, where we talk about the role of free trade in the entrepreneurship landscape in Nigeria and with extension in Africa. I am not alone today. I am here with one of top experts, if I'm permitted, one of the scholars in very knowledgeable about free trade, very knowledgeable about the African market landscape. I'm here with Dr. Olalekan Afolabi. It is a pleasure to have you, sir.
Thank you very much.
So, if you will permit me, before you introduce yourself, I will just read a little bit about your bio. So, Dr. Olalekan Olariwaju is Dr. Olalekan Afolabi, I beg your pardon, is a seasoned program manager at the Ecowas Court of Justice, bringing over 16 years of diverse experience in program development, management, and regional cooperation. Before his current role, he served as the trade policy expert at the Ecowas Commission, where he coordinated the development of a number of regional trade and investment policies. With a strong commitment to fostering sustainable development and collaboration among West African nations, Dr. Olalekan plays a crucial role in implementing initiatives that drive economic growth and enhance regional integration. In addition to his professional accomplishments, Dr. Olalekan is passionate about networking and empowering others. Dr. Olalekan was a master's degree in public policy analysis and a doctorate degree in mediation and conflict resolution. It's a pleasure to have you, sir. Probably from everything I've discussed, I've not said something about you personally. I would like you to introduce yourself to our viewers.
Just to say thank you for having me on your show.
It's a pleasure, sir.
I am here to discuss with you and discuss with the viewers. So thank you once again.
Yes, so today we want to talk about the role of free market in building sustainable entrepreneurship landscape in Africa. We all know how the market is right now. We all know how Africa particularly, I don't want to say Nigeria now, is taking the initiative of starting their own business, which cuts across continent. So the first question here is, how do you see free trade benefiting entrepreneurship development in Africa in the context of the Nigeria or the Africa we have today?
Thank you very much. And like you rightly said in your intro, entrepreneurship has been with us for a while and is still with us now. And who do you refer to as the entrepreneur? Is somebody that has identified a challenge or a problem and is solving that problem, based on his ideas. And trading it out for value and for profits.
Right.
That's an entrepreneur. And looking at the landscape of the country, looking at the landscape of the continent, a lot of people are entrepreneurs either by design or by accident. There are no jobs.
So by design or accident?
Or by accident. So there are no jobs. So a lot of people, of course, move into entrepreneurship. But in a capitalist market like Nigeria, what you see is that the laws of demand and supply is always there. So free market involves when you allow the laws of demand and supply to determine what happens. Basically, the principles of free market evolves around freedom of choice between the buyers and the seller. So I can freely go and choose a particular product against another product. I am not being compelled by any government regulations or agency to buy a
Right.
particular product
Yeah.
as against another. So there's freedom of choice. And that brings healthy competition.
Right.
So if I come to you and your products are not within my expectations or my
Jurisdiction.
standard, I move into
Another person.
So that's why you can even go into a market and see two people selling side by side, yet the price of one is higher than the other. You simply move to the other person and buy from the lower price. So there's competition, there's freedom of choice, and reduced or limited government intervention. But basically,
Sir, sorry, a lot of knowledge is going on here, but for the purpose of diverse range of audience we have, I want you to define free market in a layman term. If there's anybody here who is a medical doctor and is solely a medical doctor and is listening to us right now, I want you to explain to them what free market is, because the path you are going is more deep, and if they don't understand the fundamentals, it might be very difficult.
Okay, thank you. Well, I thought I was taking the basis, but you see, the principle of the free market simply says that demand and supply determines the market. That is what determines what happens in the market. So, and like I said, it has some basic principles, which includes free choice, between the buyers and the seller. Nobody compels you to buy or to sell. You have competition that exists in the market. You have no government intervention, self-interest. So
Right.
you buy based on your own interest. So those are the principles of free market. But there is nowhere in the world where government do not regulate some aspect of the market. Yes, but whilst the government is regulating, I think what we are pushing for is that the government should not determine prices, price control for certain products, or fix certain prices. And you will see that even in recent times in Nigeria, there have been more move,
Yes, sir.
even towards the regulation of certain products.
Yes.
Before now, there was price control on petroleum PMS, for example. But now the government is saying we are fully deregulating. We are allowing the forces of demand and supply
To determine
the price. Government before was also regulating the currency sector. You see, and that's why the government was providing subsidy for currency sector. Now the government is saying we are removing our hands, we are deregulating that sector. So the principles of free
It's left to the people to
left
decide.
to people to decide. So that is the principle of free market.
Okay.
And sometimes where you see these restrictions are also when government is trying to push for the use of a public product or public service. So for example, government is saying, oh, we are producing a particular product, or my country is producing a particular product, like maybe cars, for example, and I want to subsidize that. So
For the
people. When you do that, you are negating the principle of free market. You allow demand and supply, you allow the forces of the market to determine the price and the exchanges.
So, speaking of these free markets now, because to me it sounds good, because that basically means that the people determine what they want currently, urgently, and what they want to say, okay, you stay, we don't need you now. Okay, it's Christmas time, we need this urgently. I think that's very cool. But what do you think are the opportunities presented by the free market for Africans, and what are the challenges? Because I don't think anything really comes freely. There will be challenge somehow, somewhat. So what are the opportunities presented? You've mentioned some part, but I want you to reiterate about it and the challenges about this free market.
Okay, thank you. You see, the opportunities are great. They are bound. And a lot of entrepreneurs will tell you that if you are focused on your immediate environment, in selling and in exchanging your goods and your services, then you are not into business. So one of the opportunities that free market offers you is that you are able to sell freely across wider range of people,
right?
Across the
no
borders,
restrictions,
across the countries, and that is why institutions and organizations like ECOWAS, which is the Economic Community of West African States, have been able to come together and develop what you call the ECOWAS trade liberalization schemes that allows products of origin of a particular country to move freely into another country without paying tariff. and you can sell. So
is that within the African countries or all over the world?
No, that's within the West African countries.
Okay,
that's within the 15 West African countries of ECOWAS. And the same thing now is being done under the African Continental Free Trade Area. That's the 55 countries within the African continent.
So the AFCFTA is like a broader term of the
exactly.
ECOWAS.
It's like a broad. So the AFCFTA is a free trading area for 55 countries of Africa. So that means that you can sell your products, you can make your product available,
right?
You can market it, you can appeal to customers and appeal to people that have interest in your product within the 54 countries. That's the opportunities that free market gives. And why we are able to do that is because we believe that countries in those 54 countries or 55 countries of ECOWAS, depending on who you are speaking to, have also, imbibed the culture of free markets and the principles of free markets within their territory. And that's why it's easier for you now to move your goods and trade within those countries. In countries where free market is difficult or does not exist, they don't even allow you to trade your goods with them. Yeah, because
really?
Government determines the price of products, the type of product and everything. So it's difficult to even trade in those countries.
Okay. The challenges what are the challenges? You haven't spoke about the challenges.
So those are the opportunities. Now you see the challenges, of course, may be lack of greater opportunities for citizens within our countries. So, for example, it's difficult for you to be very competitive from this part of the world if you are having challenges with electricity.
Right.
It takes so much for you to produce products. In fact, let me just say this before I move on. It is believed that, or there is a study that shows that 50% of businesses, of startup businesses in Nigeria fails within 1 year. Within 1 year? Within the 12 months of startup. And then 90% fails within 5 years. Wow. And some of the reasons for the failure includes one, overtaxation. Overtaxation, that the businesses are subjected to. Most of businesses
by their home countries.
Most of the businesses in Nigeria pays between 1 to 5 taxes to different, tax bodies. So
for a person just struggling up.
Yeah, so that is a major challenge, and major reason why businesses fail. Another major reason in Nigeria, of course, is electricity. Energy is a big issue here.
A very big one at that.
Yeah. So with that, it's more difficult for you to produce or to render a service within this country and compete favorably with countries that have electricity, constant electricity. Yeah. So because that will, of course, increase the cost of your production. And of course, the third, challenge that has been alluded to is insecurity, which of course is a big challenge. So some of those reasons are why it is difficult, even though you have the principles of free markets, existing, it may be difficult for you to be competitive. Don't forget that one of the principles of free market is competition.
Yes.
Yeah. So if your cost of production is high and your product is expensive, I go for
a better option.
Yeah, that is cheaper or it's better.
For me.
So that's
some
of the challenges.
From what you said now, let's say I'm the president of this country, and I put out a policy that this particular product, Nigerians should be put first, or being patriotic first. Does that mean I'm practicing free market? If I put my people first, like, okay, let's do Nigerian first before other people come in. Is that free market or it is not?
No. So, and that reminds me of one of the slogans of the newly elected United States President, Donald Trump, when he was elected, in his previous administration. He always says American first. I don't know, there's a phrase he always says American first. Well, you see, what most government do is that they encourage their entrepreneurs in producing. In fact, some governments have been known to subsidize a particular sector so that the sector is more productive
and more accessible.
Yes. has more fund, is able to produce more. I know the US long time used to subsidize their agricultural products, and so they produce en masse. What typically happens is that when you produce those products after subsidy of government and you export it into another country, what may likely happen is that the product or the prices of that product will go lower than the prices in the country that is exported to, thereby affecting the entrepreneurs in those countries or the farmers in those countries.
Right.
And so that is what in in trade parlance is called dumping. So your government subsidizes your product, and then you dump the excess of that product in another market.
Country.
Yeah. And when you have that, the country in which is experiencing dumping can, of course, make appeals to we have the WTO settlement dispute settlement board can make such appeals to that. But what you can do as the president, if you are the president, of course, is to be patriotic by using your country's products. It's your choice. One of the principles of free market is also freedom of choice. As a president, I may say, I want to use Nigerians' products all around me. And when you start doing that,
that doesn't mean other people don't have access.
Yeah, everybody will also start doing that.
Yes.
When the president says, "Oh, I want to use Nigerians' products," you see that every other person follows. When the state governor says, "I want to use this product," every other person follows. But that is one subtle way of doing that.
Well, thank you very much, sir. You come from ECOWAS, and I know that ECOWAS has put a lot of planning, a lot of strategies just to make sure that there is a free flow of trade. I don't want to say free trade now. There is a free flow of trade between West African countries. Now, do you think, or what do you think government and policymakers can do to support free trade to enhance entrepreneurship in Africa? We want to make sure entrepreneurship in Africa is not just determined by the Western country. We are not following their footsteps. We want to create our own. But how do we think free trade can come in? What are the policy governments can put in place? What are the policymakers can do to make sure that this thing actually works? Because for me, I don't know, but for what I've observed so far, looking at it holistically, I think Nigerians always want to follow the white people's style. Say, okay, it has worked for them, let's follow this style. And it does not necessarily mean that's the best way. It might work, but that doesn't mean that's the best way. So what do you think the government or policymakers can do to make sure the free trade or free market enhance the entrepreneurship landscape in Nigeria?
Okay, thank you. One of the important, or one of the challenges to free trade,
right,
is one, the legal framework, some of the policies that we have. And basically, when you go across the border, there's something called, not even only across the border, even within the states, there's something called the non-tariff barriers to trade. So the tariff barriers are the taxes, are the import duties that you pay, the excise duties that you pay. But the non-tariff barriers are more or less in terms of the procedures, the custom procedures, the papers that you fill, the forms that you need to get to be able to export your product to another country. And some of these forms or some of these certificates that you need to get, they are very cumbersome to get. Sometimes in a particular country, you may have to visit like 10, 15 agencies.
Mention Nigeria now.
Yeah, we're talking about Africa now. Okay. You may have to get you visit like 10 to 15 agencies to be able to get those
Which
forms.
might be very exhausting.
So that is exhausting, that is expensive, and sometimes
frustrating.
Yeah, it makes your product even stay longer and more costly. So those are some of the things that we are hoping that government can start working on. Streamline the process for getting documentations for products, for exports, So that is the first thing. If the government is able to do that, then it's easier for people to access international markets, and then you make more money from that. And of course also trade infrastructure. We have huge deficit of trade infrastructure in this region. It's cheaper for you to export your products from Nigeria to the west, than to move it from Nigeria, for example, to Kenya, or even to Sierra Leone, that is within the region.
Country.
Yeah, it's so difficult because if you are taking a ship from here to the US or to the to the West, you are you are taking a lot of vessels. Some of those ships also dock in some other areas and picks a lot of vessels to the West, and a lot of vessels come from the West to various parts of Africa. But when you are moving from here to Sierra Leone, for example, or from, you may see only 2 or 3 cargoes that are going, and so it's not profitable to move a whole ship down to Sierra Leone directly. But you move it to the West, you get a lot of cargoes there, and you move everything back to Africa. So you see, the same thing even for rail, the same thing for road. Our train infrastructure is we are in deficit of train infrastructure. So the government needs to come together, keep working on improving that. I know a lot of work is being done in that regards, but government needs to continue.
Government of various African countries.
Various African countries needs to continue.
It's not a one country thing.
No. Needs to continue to push for that.
Okay, so let's say I want to start a business now. Let's say I want to start a business. Probably maybe I want to be a fashion designer, but I want to put this business of making locally made clothes with it. Let's say I want to start a dire, for example. And what you mentioned something about documentation. What are those things I must have in place? If I have those things in place, how can I access free market as just a recent graduate who wants to start localizing our Nigerian stuff and putting it out internationally?
Okay, let me say that, like I said earlier, under the West Africa, design,
right?
If you have a local or locally sourced product, if you can tell us or you can ascertain that this product is sourced locally, there is a protocol that allows you to move that product to another country within the region, within the West African region, without paying any tariff.
Any tariff.
Okay. You're not paying any duties. You're just moving it out because it's from here. But you see, so that is within ECOWAS. Within AFCFTA, that's African Continental Free Trade. There is also some arrangement on moving some of those products to other parts of Africa with very limited tariff being paid on it. Reduced up to, I think, about 90%, in some cases 97%. Wow. Now, how do you assess this? So one of the things we encourage businesses, entrepreneurs to do is that before you go into any business, you have to understand the market that you are going into. One of the other reasons why businesses fail is that people do not take time to know the market in which they are operating. They
think it's the same for everything.
Yeah, it's not just for me to wake up and say I have cashew nuts. I want to move cashew nuts. No,
I have cocoa.
I have cocoa. I want to move cocoa to one country. No, you need to find out how it is being done. What are the documents that you need? Where do you need to source these documents from? Who are your competitors? Right. Which market are you trying to access?
Right.
Are they ready to buy your product? Are you sure that your product meets the normal standard, the minimum
do people
standard?
Actually need this at this time?
People actually need the product. So those are the information that you need to source for. When you source for those information, and where do you get them? You can. So one of the things we encourage entrepreneurs to do, look for associations. There are business associations that are already set up, that are involved in that business itself.
Right.
If you go around, you'll see that you have a national association of adire sellers, for example, or adire producers.
Wait, these associations, are they the same with those local markets?
Some, they have a lot of their members in the local market.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Right.
You also have,
because in the market, even if you are selling crayfish, you have
associations.
You have associations.
And the associations are guided by specific rules. And the associations also provide the opportunity to know what is happening in that area.
Right.
You also have the National Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Nigeria. You have a lot of associations that can really help you, give you this information, tell you where to get things done, and that will help you as a business person to quickly advance in what you're selling.
So, if you are going to rate Africa's approach to free market, what are you going to give it?
We are still backward.
Oh wow, that was very
we are backward, especially in terms of, one, like I said, governments trying to regulate certain aspects of the markets, which, like I said, Nigeria now is also trying to improve on that and deregulating some of the markets. Also, in terms of taxation, one of the
taxes are too much.
taxation is one big challenge even in free markets. When you go to the free market, the taxes are well structured. You pay tax to government, of course, but well structured.
Well structured.
In Nigeria, you have various layers. The federal government will collect tax based on the Federal Inland Revenue Services. The state government will also collect its own tax. Local government will also collect its own tax. And you can collect all those taxes from one person. In fact, Nigeria has about 60 taxes, official taxes that you pay, and over 200 unofficial taxes. So that is a lot. And you can see an entrepreneur will easily be burdened with this. So the tax system has to be harmonized and simplified. And I think the Nigerian government is also doing something in this light, because there is the tax bill of 2024 that has just been submitted to the National Assembly. And let's hope that
we keep hoping.
Yeah, when this bill becomes an act, hopefully it will help streamline the taxes in the country.
So the last question here before we call it a wrap is, can you provide examples of successful businesses in Africa that have thrived due to the availability of free trade opportunities, or a potential business that you think can thrive under the opportunities provided by the free trade market?
You're just looking for difficult. Sorry, I'm just pulling your legs. Well, but you see, in Africa and in recent times in Africa, you see a lot of businesses are moving towards digital technology.
Right.
Services is constituting a very important part of our GDP. It's making a huge part of the GDP. And in that services, you see, mostly you are looking at banking services, you are looking at IT services and stuff like that. Now, let's take the banking service, for example. Nigerian banks, based after the last recapitalization that was done by the CBN, I think during Sanusi, sorry, let me be guided. Former governor, His Royal Highness Sanusi's administration as a CBN, there was a recapitalization that was done that strengthened the bank. Moved the bank now. I think then a bank must have 25 billion naira as the capital before it can operate in Nigeria. I think this current government is also trying to even increase that. So when that was done, you see Nigerian banks now becoming very big, and they are able to access other other markets. And if you go to most of the countries in Africa, most in West Africa and the number in Africa, you would see Nigerian banks there thriving seriously.
Wow.
In fact, in some countries, Nigerian banks are even more than indigenous banks of those countries. So that's one aspect of companies thriving. Most of the Nigerian banks, GT, UBA, a lot of them.
Let's not mention names, so we don't know people. So before I call it a wrap, actually, is there a way that the free trade can actually inhibit the way product flow in the country? Let me cite an example. So there was a particular time that the former president blocked the border for rice importation, and because of that, we appreciate the local rice, and people start eating local rice. Before we know it, people who have not even eaten it in their life, so I say, oh, I like it too, and I think I can do with this. So somehow, somewhat, at that period that the border was closed, the Nigerian rice was appreciated more than the imported rice. But there was no free market because the border was closed. And so that was why I'm asking that question, that is there a way that the free market somehow can inhibit the growth of indigenous products in a country?
Okay, so one thing that I would like to say is that entrepreneurs are known to take opportunities from problems that arises. So wherever there seems to be a challenge or a problem, entrepreneurs are known to find a way around it and make more money for themselves. So like the example you cited, there was a closure of border, rice imported from other countries or rice produced in other countries could not be imported to Nigeria at that time. So local entrepreneurs took advantage of that, and now Nigeria within that time grew its rice self-sufficiency, I think from about 20 to 30% to about 60 to 70% as it is today. So I leave you to answer the question.
Okay, so sir, from Ecowas standpoint, what would you, that's the last question, sir. Don't worry.
The second time is the lucky.
So, from Ecowas standpoint, what would you say is the progression of Nigerian market at the moment?
Well, I think Nigerian markets, Nigeria one is the biggest economy in the region.
In West Africa?
In West Africa.
Okay.
Is the, in fact, it used to be
the largest all over
Yeah,
Africa.
it used to be the largest all over Africa, but now I think is the largest in West Africa. Currently is the fifth largest in Africa. So Nigerian market is improving, and we have also seen the World Bank, projection that there would be a growth in the market. The government is also putting in place some measures, though a bit difficult for the citizens now because of the hardship that is being experienced. But some of those measures, in the long run, are expected to free up cash and use those monies to develop the infrastructure of the country further and place the country in a better position economically.
Right.
But let's hope that will actually pan out very soon.
Wow. Thank you very much. Thank you so much, our audience, for joining us on this wonderful podcast. I hope you've learned about the free market and the importance in developing or sustaining the entrepreneurship landscape in Africa. Don't forget, one of the things Doctor mentioned is that if you have any business at all that you want to start, the first thing to know is your market landscape. Do they want it? Is it going to thrive? Who are your target audience? Who are your target customers? All of these things should be put in place. And don't forget the legal framework too. All of these things are what make you stand out in the competitive market we find ourselves today. Thank you so much for joining us. You are welcome. Doctor, please, if you'd like to introduce yourself again.
Thank you for having me. I would just say that we should continue to thrive. We should always aim high as entrepreneurs. It may be difficult, but aim high. The first thing to do, identify your vision. What is it that you want to do as an entrepreneur? Get to know what you want to do, and then you learn. Take time to know how the market is, how the market operates, what are the regulatory frameworks within the markets, and I'm sure we would all succeed.
Thank you very much, Doctor. And don't forget, this is the Idea Game Changer podcast, an initiative of Idea TV. If you'd like to join us for further conversation, you can follow us across those social media platforms at Idea Television on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and X. Or you can as well follow us on YouTube, live stream Idea Television or the Idea Game Changer podcast. And we'd like to have you. If you have any question, shoot us a mail at theideagamechanger@gmail.com. Till next time, I am your host, Olalekan Mandela.